While the gridlock continues to take its toll on the economy, security and safety, a greater danger may be lurking around: the impact of deadweight on infrastructure. An average tanker or truck, when empty, weighs as much as 40 tons. The stadium bridge, for example, is barely 200 meters long, but it's become a holding bay for at least 21 trucks at every point in time, exacting as much as 800 tons of deadweight on the bridge. The joints and the pillars are often adversely affected. So also are the cases of all of the bridges and roads that lead to the port. How safe are the road users? We sought the views of some civil structural engineers.
We should say straight away, a structural engineer looking at going past Eco Bridge right now with the articulated vehicles and the tankers, would be worried, firstly, that the bridge is not being used in the way it should be, because it's meant to allow people to get from A to B. And of course, if half of it is blocked, then certainly that's causing a problem. But on a more serious note is what are the effects on the bridge in terms of the longevity, in terms of durability, and in terms of even its own structural integrity. That currently is in a very poor state, because when you have such vehicles parked on a bridge, then you have oil droppings, you'll have sharp braking and stopping, you'll have all sorts of uses which shouldn't be the case, and hazards. What we forget sometimes is that if just one of those vehicles go up in flames, God forbid, you don't know how are you going to be able to evacuate that entire length of them. To just become a domino effect. So really, it's a sad reflection. We can understand to some extent the cause, and the root cause needs to be sorted out. But when you look just purely at the structure, the bridge, it's very worrying, because if something were to happen, the impact, economically and otherwise, will be enormous.
There's also something they call fatigue. Fatigue means tiredness. The structure will be tired. Now, the fatigue of structures, that is, structures getting tired, is influenced by when you have different types of stress. Stress is a force. Stress is force per unit. So let me call it force or load. When the load is high at this moment, the load is low at the next moment, the load is high at this moment, the load is low at the next moment. So if that kind of situation occurs for a long time, it will shorten the life of the bridge. Maybe we are expecting to replace the bridge in the next 30 years, but not knowing that what we are having now has reduced that lifespan to 24. So that catastrophic event, if it doesn't happen now, can happen at that time, and we won't be ready for it.
Effort is currently being undertaken under a public-private sector arrangement to rehabilitate a 2-kilometer stretch of the Apapa Wharf Road at a contract sum of over 4 billion naira. The supervising officer gives us an insight into the extent of work being put into the project.
This road attracted a special design. It is not common to have this because it's more expensive to do. But because we want to have a once and for all solution to the annual perennial problems that is always around here, and that's why we came up with this design. It is very expensive to do, but it's more enduring and it's long lasting. And the design entails, altogether it's about 600 mm. We have about 4 layers. The first layer is after the natural ground level, you have the cement sand. That is sand cement to stabilize the subgrade so that it can withstand the intended pressure. So, and the first layer after the natural subgrade is sand cement, like I said, a mixture of sand and cement, 4% of cement of the weight of sand. mix it with it, so that no water is allowed to percolate from the underground, knowing the terrain of this place. This place is around the coastal lane, so naturally the water table here is higher than other parts of the state. So because of that, we did that soil stabilization, sand cement, 4% of cement of the weight of the sand. So, and that thickness is about 400 mm, 100 mm. So after that one, we have the stone base, which is 200 mm. So altogether now we have 300 mm. Then you have concrete on top of that, which is 250. So that's 550. Then you have the asphalt overlay of 50 mm, making 600 mm altogether. So with this, and the next 30 years, we are not likely to encounter any problem.
As it stands, there seems to be no end in sight to this crisis, and the effect remains with Nigerians.